If we didn't have the level of support, it's hard to fully implement, because when you're learning a new system or you're implementing a new system in a school district, teachers need a lot of hand-over-hand support, principals need a lot of hand-over-hand support, and a lot of times companies will say, well, that's an upcharge, or yeah, you're gonna have to put in a ticket and wait 10 days to get that support. I don't have 10 days to lose with students that are at risk. And so I need to be able to answer those questions quickly, efficiently, and effectively. And so support is extremely important, and not adding on to the cost every time I reach out to pick up the phone. There are some companies that start the clock ticking and send us a bill for just a phone call. And so I think that piece weighs very heavily on what we're looking for in a school district. Donna ISD is 74% underfunded by the state. I don't have money to waste. I don't have time to waste. That trust factor is extremely important, and the customer service goes a long way.
Welcome back to the show. I have two special guests with me today. First, I have Donna ISD Superintendent, Dr. Angela Dominguez, and Superintendent, CFO, Principal, and now he's shepherding the next crop of teachers, Dr. Rick Garcia. Welcome to the show. Now, before we dive into a little bit of leadership, intervention, data, Angela, will you give us a little bit of background on Donna ISD?
So Donna ISD is located in the Rio Grande Valley, far south in Texas. We're actually right on the border. We have some schools that are across the street from the border. So our demographic here in Donna ISD, we serve 96% of our students that are low socioeconomic. 57% of our students are emergent bilingual students. And we see a heightened need for additional supports for our students in Donna. So we do a lot to serve our kids and to serve our community.
And Dr. Garcia, a little bit about your background. What experience do you have working with students that are very similar to Donna ISD's demographics?
So we've been in the school district for 34 years, and through every school district we've been in, we've had similar demographics. We've always been in low socioeconomic schools, so we have the different students that we do have emergent bilinguals, we have at-risk students, and those things that are impacting where our students are. So we have various years of experience working with the same type of demographics that were there. In fact, we were in a school district in the Panhandle that was very similar to a border town because of the demographics that were there. So it's very similar in the situation, yes, sir.
Dr. Dominguez, I want to throw this one at you in terms of data, right? We talk about data all of the time in K-12, and how important is accurate, timely, actionable data for your team and Donna to serve your students?
So we look at data on a daily basis. You know, you're talking right now, Rick and I, and he's like, how many students do you have? And I can tell you where we're at today. We're at 12,824 students. And so we're looking at real-time data, often frequent, so that we can best serve the student population that we have in our school district. I'd like to say we're data rich, but sometimes we're action poor. And so we've gotten to do a lot of work around how do we use that data to efficiently and effectively really target and provide support for individual students in our school district.
And Rick, working with the districts across the state, is that kind of the norm where districts are trying to get their hands around the data and then really turn it into actionable steps so that they can serve students? Is that your experience?
We find that a lot of the districts, in fact, every superintendent, I don't know of a superintendent that doesn't do a lot of intensive digging into their data, and it's time results and wanting to make sure that we have actionable data, we have current data, that we're able to come in and look at this from anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks, so that every 9 weeks we're actually saying, okay, we've seen the data, we've seen where we've grown, now these are the steps that we need to do, and really dig down into intentional goal setting with students to be able to do that. So the data is very important in that piece.
You know, the word interventions come to mind anytime we talk about data, and interventions can mean a lot of things. It can mean, whether it's social emotional learning, if it's just direct instruction, small groups. Dr. Dominguez, which interventions do you feel like have been most effective for your students in Donna?
So one thing that we've noticed in the last couple of years is we've really gotten to the individualized student data level. In Donna and all across the Rio Grande Valley, actually, our students lost 2 years to COVID. So coming back from COVID in 2021, we noticed that only 9% of our students were on grade level in reading, and only 5% were on grade level in math in the third grade level. So that was really concerning for us across the school district, and concerning for our board in terms of how we help students to both recover and get to those on grade level standards so that they didn't fall behind and they're able to successfully graduate on time. In the last couple of years, we've gotten very intentional with looking at, right now we're at beginning of the year, we've just finished, we're on the 7th week of school. So we finished all of our beginning of the year baseline assessments with students to see where are they starting off this school year. We then use those reports to analyze and regroup students. Our team, our board has fully committed to actually having teaching assistants in all of our pre-K through second grade classrooms. So we do very specialized small group interventions, and I think we've maximized that resource in the last few years, and we're starting to see a lot of traction with on grade level performance for our students in those early grades.
So Dr. Dominguez, if I can add to that, or if I can ask you a question on top of that, as
Yes,
we kind
sir.
of go through, we were talking about data and how you're doing those things, and you talk about systems.
Yes, sir.
Being systemic and very intentional, and how important is it, first of all, what platform is it that you're doing, because you're using, and a lot of administrators want to know, what is it that's going on? And I know you use it with Fidelity, but what platform are you using? But then also, how important is it for that principal to be able to have conversations with teachers as we're talking about small group instruction?
So we have really started to utilize our resources around iReady for math and literacy. We also use Amplify as one of our literacy indicators for students. And it's important that principals also have a clear understanding of how to use those resources, reports, and tracking systems, so that, number one, they need to support their teachers in the classroom with whatever resources, time, allocations of just additional supports that some students may need, such as counseling, guidance, and then also to monitor. If we don't monitor, then it doesn't happen. And so each cycle, our teachers and leaders sit together to really analyze, review, look at those targeted data reports. But I think what's most exciting for me is that within the system, we actually get back so much data that makes it easy for the teacher and easy for the principal to think about how we group students strategically. So we'll get a grouping report, we get specific goals, stretch goals that we're pushing students towards. And I think that keeps the team really focused on what to do to provide that support to each student in the classroom.
You mentioned stretch goals, and you talk about that type of data. So as you're looking at that, one of the things that's very important also is for our teachers to understand the data.
Right.
We understand the data, and also our principals to understand, okay, I have the data, now what?
Right.
So what kind of supports? And again, we talk about supports for students, we talk about scaffolding, we talk about spiraling, making sure that we're on target with what they're doing. And you're like, where is he going with this? So as we're doing that, how do we ensure, what is it that we're doing to ensure that our teachers and our principals really have that data and can get into an actionable interventions for them?
So I think one of the things that's been most beneficial to us in the last couple of years is we've actually done away with a lot of programs. During ESSER, it seemed like we purchased every technology-based program that was available because students were working online. So we had to do some vetting for quality and looking at alignment to our state standards, ensuring that teachers had quick access to resources so that they weren't going to things like teacher pay teacher and getting things that were off grade level. And so in the system for iReady, we find that they actually can pull targeted and small group supports. The work is there for students both online, and the in-person small group resources are readily available. Teachers, the number one thing that they will tell you that they need is time. And their schedules are extremely busy. We want them to have good quality of life and not be spending their entire evening looking for resources or the things that they need to be successful. And we need those resources to be aligned to state standards and high quality. And so what we found is this is kind of a one-stop shop for our teachers, and they have immediate access to the tools and things that they need for each student, not just for a collective group, but really getting specialized and hitting the needs of specific students.
Now, Rick, I got to put you on the spot because you're a little bit of a unicorn, right? You've got experience. You got experience at the elementary, the middle school level, and the high school level, which is rare. When you think back to working with your teachers, what could you have done if you had a great tool? Like, how would it have helped you? How would it make you think through the process, really at every level?
Having a platform, having a resource such as iReady, because again, when I became familiar with iReady and the things that we did, ever since I've known them, we've gone and implemented them everywhere that we are. Whether you're at the elementary, what it really does is allow you to have those conversations with each student individually. So we're talking about having data talks with our students, whether they're in second grade, third grade, fifth grade, in the high school, but we're talking about where you are individually. Are you 3 grade levels behind? Hey, you're in the red, but we want to make sure that you move forward towards the green side. And those of you with iReady are very familiar with what we're talking about, those standards. But I think it allows different perspectives. If you're in the elementary, it is a different world than it is in the secondary, because you're able to have deeper conversations, I think, at the high school level. And then, of course, junior high, they're trying to find out who they are by themselves as students. But I think it allows I know, we always strive to go from research-based to research-proven. It's proven to be very successful in moving the needle academically for our elementary students, for our junior high students, and our high school students. So it gives the opportunity to have grade-level intentional conversations.
And I think, echoing what Rick said, elementary is our opportunity to close that gap.
Yes.
And for us, it identifies what the gap is. So we have really worked with our teachers to utilize the reports, but also to be strategic, because you can't fix everything at once.
Right.
And so we really work with them on what is the high yield impact, what do we work on first, and the reports identify, okay, here's where you want to start with Rick. Rick needs this first, and then we'll add these additional components. So I really think that we have such a great opportunity to close gaps when we know what the gap is, and when we have the tools and resources to actually address that gap.
I want to throw something at both of you, because as we're talking about new teachers, new principals, right, and just the staffing that sometimes districts struggle with, do you see a benefit of having a tool like iReady when a new leader comes in, or a new crop of teachers come in, something that they can hit the ground running, where there's not just a lot of a lot of time spent on trying to understand which systems we're using, how they work? Any benefit to brand new leaders and teachers?
I would definitely say that there's a benefit to that, because we're on year 3 of implementation. We have lead teachers at all levels that also support new and incoming teachers. They're familiar with the platform, and they really help support and scaffold both the principal, if there's a new principal or assistant principal, and they'll help to support new teachers that are coming into the fold. But it gives them a place to go for where do I start, what do I need to do, and how do I get access to those resources pretty quickly to support my students in the classroom.
And I'll add to that, because of the diagnostic approach that you're able to do that. And then from there, it also streamlines, hey, this is these are the lessons you need to focus on with the student, because this is exactly where they are. So as a new teacher, not only do I have the diagnostics, but then I don't have to go back and think, where is it that I'm going to go? What lesson am I going to prepare? So it provides and gives you opportunities to be able to do that. So it gives direction. Doesn't say you have to follow that completely, but again, it does give the direction, and it does allow those new teachers that are new to the career support.
One of the other things I noticed, Rick, and we started taking a little bit more advantage of this year, are the resources for parents, and having things prepped up already, like the parent letter that identifies the needs for students. And so new teachers, that's an area they struggle sometimes, is how to communicate and convey information to a child's parents. And they really play a critical and important role in our students advancing and maintaining on grade level standards. So I think using those tools has been something we've added in this year that really is helping some of our new and beginning staff.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely critical. And as a father of 3 here in Cy-Fair, understanding where they are on the path and what I can do at home to support, because I hate to tell everybody this, but once they get past about second grade, it ain't, I'm hurting more than I'm helping, if you know what I mean. So I love that y'all are investing in that time to make sure your parents and your community really understand how to support their kids. And then, Rick, I want you to put your CF no hat on for a second, because you mentioned when we were having some conversations about strategic abandonment. And although, times are tough for districts around the state, but utilizing and being very efficient with your funding and really, really identifying what is going to make the biggest impact for our kids. How important is that from the kind of the CFO lens?
Well, from the CFO lens, one of the things that is very important are the finances. We want to make sure that we have the sufficient finances to make sure that we keep our schools running. But more importantly, nothing is more important than what happens in the classroom. So we have to make sure that we have research proven, again, resources that will allow us the opportunity to impact student achievement. So one of the things that I know that we've done that I've done as a CFO and also as a superintendent, which I'm sure this is what you were talking about too, Dr. Dominguez, about whenever you came in and said, at post-pandemic and ESSER funds being removed, is you do have to consider what are we doing that is being duplicated. So are we doing 3 or 4 things that are doing the exact same thing? So how do we strategically abandon and get the one that's going to have the most impact on that piece? So the CF no for Rick Garcia was always the CF yes. It may not be the way that you want it, but it's going to be done to ensure that we have that support and those resources. But again, not duplicating things if we can, to make sure that we're enabling those supports for our teachers.
Now, Dr. Dominguez, when you think about your support system at central office and even your principals for their own campuses, how do you utilize some of the iReady tools just to progress monitor, to check, to make sure that everything is going as it needs to be? Or do we need, maybe sometimes you need to tweak or you need a little bit more help at certain campuses? How do you just support your teams from the central office lens?
So the diagnostic is extremely important for us. And having just administered right now, I can tell you across our system, we monitor that data even at the board level. So our board meeting next week, I just had this conversation earlier today, is focused on our math progress and where we're at beginning of the year. So I'm working with my team. I report out what our students did, where's our baseline, what we're working on in terms of targets for this school year to continue the growth trajectory for our students. So in those conversations, I'm working with our entire curriculum and instruction team. We already start to identify teachers that may have a specific gap, students, and provide and shift our resources to be more targeted in that support. For us, it's really important to utilize those teaching assistants in those early grade levels. And iReady makes that easy because just like the teacher having access, it lets them help the TA also be very efficient and effective with our students so that they're able to hand off resources to them to do small group instruction as well. So we look at the data at all levels. We'll come back to it. We do some progress monitoring along the way. We're really looking at usage, making sure that we're hitting those usage measures so that students have time in the system, and that we're monitoring in the classroom, that we're following up and looking at what's happening in small group intervention. What resources are being used? How are we targeting the support to each student? So we do a lot around the analysis at the central office level all the way up to the board. And then we're back down in the classroom, making sure that teachers are actually following up and following through.
I love that. I love that it's a community effort with, where we want to go. We're holding each other accountable. We're supporting each other. And I'm sure that helps with some of the questions that may come from certain board members. I'm not going to name any names. Mr. Castillo, he's one of my...
Mr. Castillo.
I know. That's why I said it. Hey.
He can't hear you, Rick, but
he's one of my favorites ever since I've met him. So
he's your favorite board member.
Oh, by far.
From the state champions in Donna, Texas, America.
By far. But just having, and I'll probably throw a question to him at some point, but just having that lens, that collective lens, that's got to save a ton of time, right? So you're not having to go fish for the data and then break it down for them. Like everybody's rowing in the same direction.
Absolutely. And I think because we're a couple years deep and we've done a lot of training, we've had a lot of support, there's really good understanding of what the reports look like and how we continue to grow individual students.
Now, Rick, from the Curriculum Associates lens, when districts are struggling, what's a first best step, right? Just to either to reach out or how to start the process of getting information or just because some districts and it's really hard to find people that you trust, cost effective systems. And let's face it, we're all shorthanded. Staffing is such a burden right now that you need help. You need outside help. What's a first best step?
Well, I think the first best step is to call your support people at Curriculum Associates. That's one of the things that we do. We don't consider this as okay, we've sold your product, now you're gone. No, this is a partnership. Yeah. This is a relationship. As she said this, as Dr. Dominguez said, we're on the third year of implementation. So it's very important to us at Curriculum Associates that we're making sure that we provide that support for them as well. So what is our first step? Let's look at the data. Let's look at your beginning of year. Do you see the different trends that are there? Let us help you analyze the data that's going on. Do you see the same things that we do? And now that as we're doing that, we don't want to just look at, oh, okay, they passed this measure. Okay, we don't want to use this as just a step of, okay, yes, they right. progress. We want to make sure that we go into because we want to look at stretch growth. We want to look at measuring for growth and not just measuring for passing. So again, students that are behind three grade levels, students behind 2 grade levels, the least we owe our parents is 1 year's growth. The least we owe with the district is that conversation about here's where you are, here's where we need to really stretch and work on those things. So we have those teams in place to ensure that, number one, we can provide the data, but number two, we can also support with conversations about the data as well.
And I will say, Rick, our support team is amazing. There has never been a time when our team picks up the phone that they can't reach someone immediately. And if we need them to, they show up the very next day. And so I've been very pleased with the level of support that we receive and training, development, principals reach out. We just had a training about 2 weeks ago where we went a little bit deeper with our principals on how are you utilizing those beginning of the year reports. And it's important to keep that fresh for them. So the service and support has been tremendous.
No, and let me add this before you say the next thing. The success isn't about Curriculum Associates. It's about Rick Fernandez in 2nd grade or 3rd grade, his success. And that's one of the things that's very important for us is the success that Donna has, the success that is there is where the success comes for Curriculum Associates.
Angela, I kind of want to round out on this because a lot of people, how do districts make decisions? How do you know who to choose? Just talk about, from your lens as a superintendent, how important the trust factor is, because I feel like that was the biggest thing, hands down. It wasn't cost. It wasn't a lot of other factors. It was like, can I count on this person, this group to help when I need it? Can you just speak to that a little bit?
I will say that it is extremely important. And so if we didn't have the level of support, it's hard to fully implement, because when you're learning a new system or you're implementing a new system in a school district, teachers need a lot of hand-over-hand support. Principals need a lot of hand-over-hand support. And a lot of times companies will say, well, that's an upcharge, or yeah, you're going to have to put in a ticket and wait 10 days to get that support. I don't have 10 days to lose with students that are at risk. Right. And so I need to be able to answer those questions quickly, efficiently, and effectively. And so support is extremely important, and not adding on to the cost every time I reach out to pick up the phone. There are some companies that start the clock ticking and send us a bill for just a phone call. And so I think that piece weighs very heavily on what we're looking for in a school district. Donna ISD is 74% underfunded by the state. I don't have money to waste. I don't have time to waste. And so that trust factor is extremely important, and the customer service goes a long way.
So let's end on this. In 3 years, Donna ISD will be what?
In 3 years, Donna ISD will see that 100% of our students are graduating on grade level, ready for college, career, in the military. And really what I want to see is that starts in 3rd grade. And so early childhood lays that foundation. I think utilizing the tools and resources that we have to set students up for success. I want to see that we're working on stretch goals for enrichment and not intervention. And so I'm really excited with the growth that we've seen, and that we're able to measure it with tangible numbers, not just to say, okay, we think that we're getting better, but we are using the same system year over year, and we can really compare apples to say, wow, we are really growing. And That's a tribute to our teachers, to our instructional program, and to utilizing appropriate resources to target and meet the needs of our students.
And I also want to thank Rick, because it's critical that a district has someone on their side that understands education, that understands some of the barriers and struggles, and understands how critical, like Angela said, I need it now, right? Our kids are in class. I don't have time to waste 1 second. They need every bit of support that they can possibly get. So I want to commend you and Claudia and the Curriculum Associates team, because that's absolutely critical that those things happen. So I appreciate you being there and supporting the districts around the state of Texas.
No, thank you. And it's all about the kids. It really goes back to, I think, every single one of us, you, Dr. Fernandez, Dr. Dominguez, and it's all about kids. So.
Well, if you want to find out more about Curriculum Associates, go to curriculumassociates.com. If you want to find out more about Donna ISD, it is a great place to live and work. This district is destined for greatness. So Dr. Dominguez, anything you want to shout out before we go?
So we are definitely destined for greatness, and we have the #1 board in the whole state of Texas. And when your board and superintendent are in alignment, it's a great place to work. So come join us, please. And to go to school. So we welcome any students.
And we'll end it there. See y'all next time.